Okay, I call this meeting to order. It is Monday, September 8th, 2025, just a couple of minutes after 4 o'clock. And we have a quorum present. Six of the seven members are currently part of this conversation. Thank you all for your attendance. I have a couple of things to talk about briefly in board comments, and then we'll move on from there. The first one is something that I discovered since our last meeting that I thought I would share with board members. As you all know, we don't have a role in municipal elections as they're conducted by the municipalities, not by us. But our staff, at my request, did kindly give a heads up to Montgomery County municipalities who had not yet reported, or who we had been told had not yet reported, of their legal requirement to report their election results to the Maryland State Board of Elections. Um, and in that process, I've learned something that may be of interest to the board and the staff, and that is that there are some municipalities, including the village of Chevy Chase and the town of Somerset, that have charter provisions that provide that if the candidates in their municipal elections are unopposed, their municipal elections can be canceled. Now, that's obviously very different from what we do under state law. We always have an election, even when candidates are unopposed. But I wanted to let the board know about this in case you ever get questions about that. They're governed by different laws than we are, and therefore they have the ability to do different things than we do. And then I wanted to make, we're going to have a discussion later that's somewhat related, but I wanted to make a brief comment about mail-in voting. We are required to follow a combination of laws from the federal and state constitutions to federal and state statutes, to state regulations, to Maryland State Board of Education's policies. But there is a significant legal question as to whether states are required to follow a presidential executive order. I personally believe that the president doesn't have authority under the US Constitution to tell states how to conduct elections, but my personal opinion is actually pretty unimportant in this context. And if the president issues the executive order on mail-in voting that he's been describing, I'm sure that the courts and state officials will decide what we will be required to do. Today's discussion about the United States Postal Service later on in our agenda is not designed to be a debate about the value or wisdom of mail-in voting, which the US Congress and the Maryland General Assembly already has debated and decided unless and until they change what they've previously enacted, but a discussion of the practical effects of US Postal Service policies and procedures on the mail-in voting that we are required to make available to voters under current federal and state law. All of us know that postmarks are an important factor in determining the timeliness of mail-in ballots, and we had more than 600 ballots deemed to be untimely in the 2024 general election. We're going to talk about a USPS proposed rule and its possible effect on mail-in ballots returned through the US mail. But once again, while certainly we can always have a debate or a discussion about the assets and the pros and cons of every method of voting, that was not my intention for today's discussion, but rather it was to give us the opportunity to comment on the Postal Service's proposed rule. So anyway, with that being said, are there any other board members who wish to make remarks? Okay, we'll move on then. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? All right, seeing none. Disclosure of campaign contributions, attendance at fundraisers. Does anybody have anything to disclose? Okay, we are just moving right along here. So we're now up to public comments. Boris, do we have anyone who has signed up for public comments?
There are no public comments. No one signed for today.
Okay. Is there anybody who is, I'm looking at the attendees and it looks like the attendees are staff members for the most part. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard who is a member of the public? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to the election director's report. Boris.
Thank you. I'll go through the report. In summary, the report is available on our website under the today's board meeting, together with the rest of the documents that were prepared and shared with the board. So, agenda was published on Tuesday, shared with the board with the rest of the materials on Thursday, and all materials were presented to the public through our website on Thursday as well. When it comes to the voter registration statistics, we do continue every first of the month to share with the board and publish on our website the monthly statistical report for the previous month. Without going too much into numbers, the numbers are steady. We are still over 706,000 registered active voters in Montgomery County. When it comes to the State Board of Elections, State Board had a meeting last week. State Administrator announced 5 departmental bills that will be presented in the next General Assembly. I shared them with the board and shared the link to those bills. Of course, this was just an announcement. We don't have the text of the bills, just the topic that bills will cover. The first two might be quite interesting. The one relates to creation of ad hoc bus stops at early voting sites for the public transport that's funded through the counties and municipalities. And the second one, of course, is working with the educational institutions in state of Maryland to create election administration career path. I believe that we will talk more about these bills as they are presented to the General Assembly in the months in 2026. When it comes to personnel, we are currently conducting interviews for the office service coordinator, someone who will work on mail-in voting and candidate filing. And we are wrapping up advertisement for the vacant position of voter education training specialist. So 2 positions that are in different stages that will hopefully result in new colleagues being onboarded. When it comes to the temporary positions, we remain one temporary employee assisting us with all the assessments of the polling places that we need to conduct. And we are adding some temporary employees to support our outreach efforts. As the board will hear later from Dr. Zelaya, we will have a pretty packed outreach calendar in the coming months. Knowing that voter registration day is coming up, we are going back to every school. So this volume of events is not something that we can fully support with the internal capacity that we have in terms of permanent staff alone. When it comes to the budget, this is, again, very beginning of the fiscal year. Our expenditures are, I would say, minimal because main expenditures are related to the cost of salaries. We are preparing our list of items that we will need to purchase for the next elections, and then the changes in the budget document would be more visible. The next item on my report is the facility. We spoke many times in previous elections about canvassing outside of the building offsite, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have acquired a new space in the building that will be dedicated for canvass and training of election judges. This was an effort that took some time. We had to, there are many paperwork and many construction work to be done, but we were supported quite early we received support from the county executive to go out and look for the space. We found the space and we obtained that space. So going forward, all the canvass of vote by mail ballots will be on site in this building in the new space that will, again, it's multi-purpose space, will be used for the training of election judges as well. It's been already published on our website, and I would like to use this opportunity just to say it one more time. This Friday, September 12th, our facility will be closed for public. Again, in preparation for 2026 elections, there's certain construction work that has to take place on the entry walking area to our building due to sidewalk. So that's the day when the concrete will be taken away, new one will be poured. So we'll be closed on Friday, hoping that everything will be finished by Sunday. Monday will be business as usual, will be open for all public. When it comes to sections, water services, as in the last few previous reports, we are back to our day-to-day activities in the non-election year. Focus, of course, is on list maintenance, on updating voter registration records, whether we receive updates from the voters directly or from any agencies that we can accept data from, including the courts, jury commission, or ERIC, for example. Our colleagues from Water Services section, again, and vote by mail in particular, are going out and supporting outreach efforts because we are trying to incite our voters to sign up and be our canvassers for the next election and to serve in our nursing homes and assisted living facilities program. In my report, you will see the listing of the candidates who have filed so far to appear on our ballot in 2026. I can tell you right now that the moment I sent this list, the list became outdated because candidates apply all the time. We have provided a link in my report. I advise everyone for the up-to-date information to go to the state website. Just follow this link, and you'll learn about all those candidates who applied to be on our ballot. You will just notice one in my report for the register of wills. I put it in red color. As board will remember, and board asked last time, a candidate who filed to be register of wills to be re-elected passed away. Therefore, we went from one candidate to zero. And the question was, what is the process? On our end, we do voter registration process as normal. But we did share information with the state board, and I believe there was a communication with the campaign of deceased individual that resulted in inactivation of the filing to appear on the ballot. Again, this was one of those my to-do list for the board from the last time, so I just put it in red to point it out. When it comes to the voting system information technology section, again, we are going through just like water services are going through the list maintenance of the voter registration records, we are doing a maintenance on all the equipment that we are using for the elections. This time around, the focus was on the batteries, on ballot marking device. There's a calendar. There's a process that we need to follow. It's prescribed by the state. We work with the vendor because they're their machines. They know best when things need to be done. We are still integrating it and testing the new election resource management system that will assist our volunteers to sign up and serve as election judges. We are looking into rolling out potential or having the final test in October. Again, it's a big system. We have big counties. Too many questions are in it, and it might take some time, but we will be ready for the next election cycle. When it comes to election operations section, again, shredding of those materials that we are allowed to shred, that the 22 months federal required retention period has expired, and the court removed the stay on those documents as well. The part of this section as well is in the field, checking one by one every polling place that we plan to use in 2026 as approved by the board in one of the previous sessions. Outreach, recruitment, and training session. It's all about reaching out, being in the field, visiting communities and talking to the voters. We are also trying to communicate via email to all those who might be interested to serve as election judges and who have expressed that interest before or actually served with us before. So we continue email communication with almost 10,000 voters that we have on our list. When it comes to the meetings and events, I need to report to the board that on August 26th, a six-member delegation of staffers from the U.S. Senate Rules Committee visited Montgomery County Board of Elections. They were in Washington County before us, I believe, on the same day. They came together with the state administrator, Jared DeMarinis, and his deputy, Katie Berry, and Angie Arnold from the state legislative services. It was an opportunity for us to sit down and have a conversation, show the building, explain the processes, and maybe show a few particularities about Montgomery County in terms of our size, number of registered voters, diversity, number of residents with at least bachelor degree, which puts us, I believe, top 10 or top 20 in the United States, the volume of mail-in ballots, the volume of web delivery ballots, and of course, our warehouse space, how we manage to organize movement of all the equipment in and out in a very short period of time as we prepare for early voting and election day. That, in short, will be my election director report for today's board meeting.
Thank you, Boris. I have one question for you about the budget expenditure tracking.
Okay.
In that budget document, there were three categories that I noticed where the year-to-date total expenses and the original annual budget amount were the same, which is to say the entire year's worth had been in the year-to-date category. One of those was for legal services, one of those was for cellular phones, and one of those was for Maryland State Board of Elections expenses. Now, I know that we haven't spent all of the year's worth of money for those categories as of today. So I was wondering if you could explain why that looks like it does in this report.
Thank you, Dave, for the question. Very easy explanation. We have as you might assume, let's take, for example, the cellular phone bill. We received 12 bills in the span of a year. We have two options how to deal with it. We can create one purchase order at the beginning of the fiscal year and charge those invoices against that one purchase order. Or we have to create a purchase order every month for new bill that has arrived. So on a staff level, we prefer to create one purchase order to make life easier for us, for Lisa in particular. So invoices are charged against that purchase order every month. The same goes for any invoices that we receive on a monthly basis from board's attorney, and of course, state bill. State bill has a quarterly billing, so we encumber all the funds at the beginning of the year, and whatever the bill comes in the amount, we have a purchase order in place that we can just draw money from and pay that invoice. All the invoices are paid timely. This is just
well, and not ahead of time either.
No. Yeah. So
because I know that's
it's a financial process.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that's the case with Kevin's bills, which I see that we don't pay him ahead of time. We could, but we don't. When you do a purchase order, does that require going through a county government process in addition? Whereas if you do it this way, how big a difference are those two processes?
So, in this county, for us to create a purchase order, we have to go and work with the county government Office of Management and Budget or their shared services. So again, it's not just additional work for us; it's additional work for our colleagues in other county agencies.
Sure.
Creating one purchase order with all encumbered funds, that's it. Every just invoice is just charged against the purchase order number that's created at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Boris. Larry.
Yeah, thank you. I just had one question about the visit of the Senate staff. Was that both minority and majority staff of the Rules Committee?
So there were 6 of them. They introduce themselves with the names and whether they are minority or majority. I cannot connect the names and the party
I
at this
I
point,
I
but they were
I,
both.
I I can because I asked the same question of Boris that you just did, Larry, when I read the report. And Boris sent me the names, and I did some Googling, and I believe there were two from the majority and four from the minority, but there were but both sides were included.
Okay, thank you.
Any other Alex? Alex, you're muted.
Boris may have covered this, but I just wanted to be sure. Did he say that Mr. Griffin's filing would be withdrawn and that his name would not appear on the ballot?
So his candidacy, his filing was canceled.
I see. Okay, so
If you
his
go
name
to
will
the
not appear then on the ballot in 2026. Okay.
so if you go to the state website, you will see that there is no active filing for that position in Montgomery County.
And if you remember, Alex, I don't remember whether you were on the board when Kevin Kamenetz was running for governor and passed away shortly before the election. He was too late to be taken off the ballot, and we had to add all kinds of signage for people as to, if you vote for him, your vote would go for his lieutenant governor candidate, et cetera. But that was because it was after the ballots had already been printed.
Yeah, he died
Um,
in September or something, didn't he, or October?
I don't remember I don't think it was September or October because I think it was before the primary, but it was similarly close to the election.
Right.
And this is not that since the filing deadline, is not until February of 26. So we don't have that as an issue. And I already expressed my condolences to the Register of Wills and his family last month, or whenever the last time we met was a very sad situation. But now there are no filed candidates for that office. Any other questions for Boris about his report?
Oh,
Okay.
Mr. President, actually, I had one
Yeah.
other question. Does that mean with the new space that we will be doing the canvas at the board HQ for 26 or no?
Every Canvas session going forward will be in this building, in the new space. So we might not come as a surprise to the board. We had a multi-year contract with the Germantown campus for that facility. We haven't canceled the contract until we took control of this space. So this space is ready. We are acquiring and trying to find time, to be honest, to put furniture in. So there will be items that we will have to address going forward, primarily sound system, because we would like to have microphones like we had in Germantown. We are looking into more static cameras versus those that we had on moving carts. But again, technological solutions, vendors requirements, funding. So these things will be addressed as we go forward. But the bottom line is we have a space. We are working currently to put the new signage above that space that literally call it Canvas and Training Center. So we are trying to take care of these things as early as possible so we don't need to think about them when we hit March, April next year.
And along those lines, a couple of things I should add. First is that some board members have already had the opportunity, and others will have the opportunity before the month is over to see the new space, which I encourage everyone to do. And when Boris says that he believes in planning ahead, he is putting his money where his mouth is, or at least the county's money, because the work that is being done at the board on Friday and over the weekend to make the front sidewalk be even with the entrance to the space is going to allow for carts with ballot envelopes in them to be rolled down the sidewalk and into the space without having to go over a hump. And it also will make the new space more handicap accessible as well. So we definitely are planning to be in the new space, um, you know, for the canvas. I will remind everybody many times between now and then, but the canvas opening is June the 1st. So everyone can mark that on their calendar. Kevin, you in particular should mark that on your calendar, um, since we can't meet without you. And anyway, I've had a chance to see the space. I'm very impressed by what we have, and I do think that it's much better for us to have the canvas in in really nearby space rather than having to move ballots back and forth. I think this is a much better situation. Ami, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to say, since I have toured the space, I urge everyone who hasn't to go see it. Boris has done, and his people have done a fabulous job in designing it and getting it set up to make the canvas run very smoothly. I congratulate everyone for that effort.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
Um, um, a lot of thought has gone into it, and that is very much appreciated. Anything else for Boris? Okay, Kevin, Board Attorney's report.
Good afternoon. Well, I'm pleased to report I don't have much to report since our last meeting. It's been relatively slow in the legal world. We're finalizing the memorandums of understanding for early voting. But other than that, there's really not much going on. All that's on track and it's on schedule. I've met with Boris and Mindy, and we should have those ready to go in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, any other?
As you know, we're
Yeah.
still in a sort of wait and see period with regard to potential litigation that may or may not involve the board. So,
Which could describe us every month.
yes, true. But nothing new to report on it.
Okay, good enough. Any questions for Kevin? Okay, next is the web update. Boris.
Okay, this will be shorter than Kevin's because, again, non-election year. I think this idea of following three last months shows that we are still in a holding pattern when it comes to month of August, which is understandable. It's summer, it was vacation time, it's non-election year, non-election season. So there are no major changes in terms of our activity on our website compared to the last 2 months. Again, we are down to 6,000 views by users from few 100,000 that we will hit when we get closer to the election. But I would say that's just a normal cycle of the election in Montgomery County.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that our views will increase as the fall moves on, which is not too much of a limb. Okay, any questions for Boris on the website update? Okay, seeing none, we move on to the outreach update. And can Dr. Zelaya be made a panelist so that he can, there he is, okay. Or at least there's his name. There he is.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Z. Please proceed.
Yes. So as Boris mentioned, very, very, very busy compared to August, which is a great indication that organizations, individuals, voters are eagerly inviting us to attend their events, whether large or small. Tonight, we will be attending County Executive's series of community conversations around the FY27 budget. There's a series of 12 sessions between tonight through the 18th of November. We'll be pushing that information, obviously, as we have the events. The 16th of September is National Voter Registration Day, and advisory will go out tomorrow. Purposely waited until today's meeting to push all that messaging. If you do it too early, people tend to forget. So we're going to do a blast out there regarding that as well. We have the Long Branch Festival, which is this Friday and Saturday. We have a series of volunteer fairs at Montgomery College at all campuses. And also, we reestablished our relationship with the universities at Shady Grove. We've been visiting their main campus off of Shady Grove Road over the last couple of weeks. MCPS with the high schools, as Boris noted, we are returning early fall and also after winter break. So there's a series of confirmed events. We're still waiting for additional dates. President Naaman David, I emailed you the confirmations last time you requested Northwood High School, so I emailed you those corresponding dates.
Okay.
We also
That's
have
fine.
Poolsville Day and Burtonsville Day, which is on September 20th. We have the Beacon 50 Plus Expo, which is on the 28th of September. And tomorrow night, we have the African Heritage Month proclamation at downtown Silver Spring. And this weekend, we have the Friendship Picnic at Wheaton Regional. So, very, very busy. All of our confirmed events are on our website, which is 777vote.org. Once again, please reach out to the board, to myself, to staff members if there's an upcoming event you feel we should be, or there's an event in particular you would like to invite us. So very, very busy. We're looking forward to engage the community way in advance to touch on the high points of preparing a vote plan as we near the 2026 elections. And in addition, our encouragement to our voters to assist us to sign up to become poll workers next year, and also to ensure that those individuals who are on the permanent list, if you will desire to stay on that list, by all means. If not, communicate to our team while we're out in the community or give us a call at 240-777-8500. At each event, we will have the voter registration, mail-in ballot request application, the election worker information, future vote information, and we also will have the voter cancellation in case you're back in Montgomery County visiting loved ones from California and you were a former voter. We will have those form as well. And also, if you have an interest in removing your name from the permanent mail-in list, we have all those documents with us. If you have any questions, by all means, visit us at the events or give us a call.
Thank you, Dr. Zelaya. Alex, I'll call on you in a second. Janet, I just sent you a text. Daniel seems to have become an attendee. Please put him back on our panel. And Alex, go ahead.
Mr. President, I was just going to say how impressed I was that Dr. Zelaya plans to appear in 12 different locations on the same day, September 16th. That's amazing.
I'm impressed even if Dr. Zelaya delegates half of those.
Yeah, it's teamwork all around. It's teamwork. And as Boris mentioned, we're working with the different division. It's a great opportunity also to invite our team members to go out into the community. And it's a great opportunity to just make our team members well-rounded. It's important that each one of us understands the different dynamics of each of our divisions. So we're working with that. So I think it's important because at the end of the day, we are here to serve.
Well, I would just add to that I'm sure you have some board members who would also be happy to participate, particularly in the National Voter Registration Day, since you have so many things going on that day, even if just to let people know that that we're paying attention. So please consider that as well. And I'm sure that we can work with you on that. Don't want to step on anyone's toes, but also want to help however we can.
Thank you for the offer.
Okay. Anyone else with questions for Dr. Zelaya? So you sent me the information about one of the high schools, but I gather the high schools are not on this list, or are they?
They're not on the list that is published for the community on our website, but there is a document that I sent to the board that lists all of the events.
Got it.
Yeah, because keep in
Okay.
mind with the high schools, they're
They're not
closed to the
public.
public.
They're not public events.
Yes, and sometimes
Understood.
there are events that are very specific to an organization or a church that may not be open to the public as well. But the ones I said to the board is the gamut,
Okay.
is the whole
Okay.
pot.
Okay.
Yes.
I appreciate your clarifying that. So there's a couple of things that to keep in mind there. First one being thank you for being sensitive to not posting public events that the public is not invited to. Secondly, board members should be cautious about sharing events that are on the list that we get, given that the list that we get is not necessarily open to the public. And thank you for clarifying that.
Likewise,
I
likewise.
I appreciate I appreciate your doing that. Okay, anything else for Dr. Zelaya? Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your, oh, I do have one more thing, which is um, please, if you have the time to stick around for our conversation about the postmarks, I think it's going to be relevant to our outreach in many different ways. And
Most definitely.
we're probably going to want to
Yeah.
chat with you about that at some point, because obviously we want to educate our public on how to
Mhm.
make sure that their votes, if they have eligible votes, that they will be counted. So,
Most definitely. And in case if we
so
have a robust conversation, it near 6:30, I will need to jump off to head out to the county executives community conversation in
of course you will.
Bethesda. So yeah,
Well,
okay.
I'm hoping that our conversation will not be that robust today,
Okay.
but we will see. I mean, obviously, I'm in favor of robust conversation. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of meetings that last till 6:30. Of course, if that happens, and you know, if there's anything useful that we can share with you, first of all, you know that our recording's available,
Yes.
and of course, we're available.
Yes.
So
Perfect.
so happy to work with you on that. And thank you for covering that event this evening and the other budget events as well.
My pleasure.
That's great. Okay. Is there any old business? Okay, seeing none, we will move to new business, which is discussion and possible action on the United States Postal Service August 12th, 2025 request for comments on a proposed addition to the mailing standards of the United States Postal Service Domestic Mail Manual regarding postmarks and postal possession. And let me first start by giving some background here. There was a request for comments that was published in the Federal Register, which is how federal agencies publish things for public comment on a whole variety of subjects. In the case of this particular policy, the comments are due on Thursday of this week, hence our moving the meeting from next Monday to today. And as board members know, Ami and I circulated, I guess, a draft of proposed concepts for our comments. And that was not meant to be in the format in which it would be transmitted to the Postal Service if we were to decide to comment. It was meant to be a discussion, and quite frankly, I numbered the paragraphs to make it easier for us to have a conversation and to be able to identify if there's any particular issues, where they are to be found, and to talk about that. As all of you know, postmarks play a huge role in determining the timeliness of ballots that are returned to us by the U.S. mail. The document that we distributed includes a quotation from the state law as to exactly what it says on that, or I should say from the state regulation, on exactly what it says on that subject. Um, I personally have, well, I think you also know that I've had concern about the some of the things that the post office is doing that makes our job more difficult for some time. And we've had meetings with the local postmasters. I want to say that the first paragraph in our document, which is a thank you to our local postal people for their cooperation in working with us. That was not merely for form. That is the truth. I mean, they have been extraordinarily willing to not only to converse with us, but to hear what our needs are, to respond to the extent that they can, to meet with us, to have us meet with them, and we appreciate that. But the standards are not necessarily made locally. And so my thought was that at the very least, I would want the Postal Service to know what the impact of what they're doing is on what we're doing. And to the extent that there are things they can do, either relating to postmarks or otherwise, to um, to make it possible for them to do what they need to do and for us to do what we need to do, that would be something that I would think would be worthwhile for us to suggest. With that being said, I guess what I should do is probably move approval of the concepts and then open it for discussion so that anyone who wants to can either talk about them or make suggestions for changes or ask about them or whatever. I will say that I did send the draft document to board members. I believe it was on Friday. I'm a little fuzzy on what I did on which day of the last 3 days, but I believe it was on Friday that I sent it to you all. I did get a number of suggestions separately from Ami and Larry. In fact, Larry and I had a very lawyerly discussion through this morning on the meaning of the word disenfranchised. And there's actually in paragraph 16, I'm going to propose to change the word disenfranchised to disqualified. And I can explain that if people are interested. Consider yourselves to have been spared from the very lawyerly discussion between the two of us, unless you want to hear it. But in any event, I'm hopeful that our board will support these comments. I have intentionally not made the comments about the wisdom or lack of wisdom of mail-in balloting because I know that is controversial beyond the scope of authority of the U.S. Postal Service and beyond the scope of authority of our board. So I figured that that would not be the best use of our comments. So anyway, so I will move approval of the concept document, and if there's a second, we can then move to discussion.
I will second it, David.
Okay. I think I've said most of what I was going to say, at least for now. Is there anyone else who wants to be recognized about this document? Alex.
Couple comments, couple questions.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Um, First comment is about paragraph 8, and this is about the Comar section.
Okay.
And I mean, there's probably not much we can do about this, but I think the regulation was inaccurate, I guess, for many years because the Postal Service has confirmed a postmark does not actually verify and is never verified in every situation when a piece was mailed. It merely attests to when it was that it was in the post office's possession on that date, and it could have been when it was first accepted, but not necessarily.
I don't know that it's accurate, Alex, to say that that's never been the case. I think that the document that they distributed said that originally that was the case, that as soon as it entered their possession, that it was that it was an indication of that. But I agree with you that it's been some time since that's been true.
I mean, irrespective of the
Yeah,
RTO change and everything, I think for some years now it hasn't been universally true, and I think
right,
that's what I got from
right,
what they wrote.
right.
And so maybe the state board and or the legislature was sort of misinformed, or they were using it perhaps for a shorthand, but
Well, it also, I don't know when it was enacted. I think it was enacted quite some time ago.
I-
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're right. I mean, I do think the RTO will make it worse. You know, if there are no afternoon pickups at post offices in 70% of post offices across the country, that is going to slow down the mail. And of course, while those 70% may not be Montgomery County post offices, Montgomery County receives, as you know, mail-in ballots from all over the country and the world.
Well, that sort of would bring me to my next question, which was about paragraph 11. I didn't get that 70% statistic from the proposed rule. What is the source for that assertion?
Well, my source is Larry Halloran. So, Larry, what was the source for that?
It was from the Postal Times. It was generated by commercial mailers. Um, I can send you the link if you want, Alex. But
Okay, all right, yeah, I just didn't know where that came from. So because they didn't discuss it in the proposed rule, so fair enough.
And in fact, they didn't discuss the RTO at all in the proposed rule, which I think, I mean, Larry was the one who told me about it. I think that that's kind of an omission because, I mean, basically part of our job is responding to the Postal Service. Part of our job is informing the public. And part of our job, as you said, Alex, is also when we inform the public, informing the state board and the legislature because they may want to adapt the rules to what the reality is. Um, but I do think that there are um, I think that there are a number of factors here that could make it very difficult for people who wait until the last possible day to get their U.S. mail ballot. Because you can request under the state law, you can request a U.S. mail ballot a week before Election Day, which was based on the idea that we could mail it to someone and they could mail it back within a week. And you know that is becoming more and more ambitious. You know, as time goes on. So, I mean, your point is well taken. The legislature is frequently um, reluctant to make electoral changes in even numbered years. Um, but we will have to, I mean, I think that's something for us to consider as to, or at the very least, to let them know about, you know, what the possible effects are of this rule.
Yeah, I mean and maybe using the postmark is still the best sort of benchmark to use, but it's just that we want to make sure they have a correct understanding of what it means and what it doesn't mean. Um, when I looked at paragraph 12, and I apologize for not sort of bringing this to your attention earlier, but I was thinking if you're going to say something like this about disenfranchisement, now maybe you may have changed it to disqualify. I don't know, but
No. Disqualify was in paragraph 16.
oh, in paragraph 16. Okay, I
Right.
was looking at paragraph 12.
Right. Paragraph 12 is the one other place in this document where the word disenfranchise is used.
But I don't think it's accurate to say to talk about voters who voted timely. It's really who timely relinquished possession of their ballots to the custody of the Postal Service.
You're saying because the definition of when they voted is not as clear as the definition of when they mailed it.
Well, meaning for someone with a mail-in ballot, it's not when they filled in the ovals. It's when they did that and
Good point.
relinquished custody of it to the Postal Service on or before
Okay.
Election Day.
Okay. So how about if I change the word voted in paragraph 12 to mailed?
Yeah, I guess timely mailed. Yeah, I guess that.
They mail timely, they're timely ballots if they're mailed on or before Election Day.
Right.
Um, uh,
Which
uh,
means
yeah.
mailed, meaning relinquishing possession to the custody of the Postal Service, I guess.
Right. I'm not sure if we need to explain mailed, but we could. I mean, do you feel like there's I'm going to get to Daniel and Larry and Ami in a second. Do you think that we need to be that specific as to what we mean by mailed or
Yes, yes, I agree with Alex on that. I
okay.
would certainly like that clarification.
Okay, so one of the most difficult issues we have faced that also can disenfranchise voters who mailed, so we don't want to say just say mailed, who
Timely
um,
relinquished possession of their ballots.
or who placed ballots in US in the US mail, because there's a lot of different ways to do that. Um, on or before election day. One of the most difficult issues we have faced that also can disenfranchise those who place ballots in U.S. mail on or before election day has been caused by receiving. Okay, that's about the added postmarks in number 12. Um,
Well, the reason I
yeah.
thought you should be a little more specific is sometimes people might think that they mailed it when they left it in their mailbox for the mail carrier to pick it up from their
Okay,
house, but that doesn't relinquish
okay,
it to the custody of the Postal Service.
but remember that paragraph 12 is about the extra postmarks that local post offices had been adding to ballots. And in that instance, the key fact is not the voters who have, I mean, the point of paragraph 12 is these are voters who followed the rules, but they just didn't get a postmark.
And in those instances, can you remind me what we've done in past canvasses? If there was no
If there was a secondary postmark on the day after election day, we as a board have concluded that they mailed it on or before election day.
and what
If
if
it's if it's 2 days after election day, that's where we drew the line and we said we were not counting those. Now, other board members, if you remember it differently, please say so. But that's the way that I remember it. But again, paragraph 12, we do have voters who don't necessarily understand how postmarks work. Um, and who definitely need to be reminded of that. But what paragraph 12 is designed to cover is those who have done everything correctly, don't get a postmark, and then they get a secondary postmark that makes it look like it was untimely.
well, like my
Because
question was, what did we do in situations where there was no primary or secondary postmark?
we go to the signature on the affidavit, because that's what the rule tells us to do. And that's actually, we don't end up, we have less of a quandary on that one. The real problem comes that you have a California voter who, choose your state, doesn't have to be Cali. Let's take Arizona, so that it's less clear as to what their partisan persuasion is. You take an Arizona voter who mails their ballot in Arizona on the day before election day. And let's assume that they mail it the day before election day, and ordinarily you would expect a postmark within a day or two. But instead, they get no postmark because there are some who believe that business reply envelopes aren't supposed to get postmarked, which is a terrible thing where election mail is concerned. We want postmarks. But if it doesn't get a postmark and then it arrives at a Montgomery County post office that adds a postmark saying, yep, it came through here on the day after election day, and they put a postmark on the day after election day, we, looking at the outside of the envelope, cannot tell that it was mailed from Arizona.
And
We,
your
looking
point
at
is
the,
that
yeah,
absent that, we would use the date of the oath.
correct. Absent that, we would use the date of the oath. With that, we have a marking that really has nothing to do with either when the voter signed it or when they put it in the mail, because that would be a marking as to when it entered, the Montgomery County mail system. And if it was mailed from somewhere else across the country, we wouldn't really know when it was entering the system. What I would really like the Postal Service to do is to postmark every bit of election mail at the point that it enters the mail system, wherever it is, whether it's down the street from the Board of Elections or whether it's in Alaska. I mean, I would think that the best thing for us is to have as close to the time that it entered the mail stream as we can. And I think that was the goal of paragraph 12 of trying to, to basically say, yeah, if you vote a timely ballot, because this was not a paragraph where I was trying to suggest that something was timely that was ambiguous. This was a paragraph where I'm trying to suggest that you can do everything right and still it looks to us like you didn't. And then we're faced with the quandary of figuring out what to do. Because if it's based on the oath, and the oath is after election day, and we've had some of those, and we've rejected those. If it's based on the postmark of origin, then at least we're close to when it entered the system. And remember, the way we discovered this problem was because we did have some ballots that were postmarked in two places. They were postmarked, in another state, and then they were also postmarked in Maryland. And that's how we figured out that that's what some folks in Maryland were doing. Now, we've met with two different local post offices now to explain the problem that causes us. But this is an opportunity to tell it to the United States Postal Service, and to encourage them, because we're not the only state that does this. I mean, and not to mention that, there's also tax returns and property taxes, and I imagine you have litigation deadlines, and, there's a lot of things where that postmark, makes a difference. That was the goal of paragraph 12. But if it makes people more comfortable, instead of saying voted timely ballots, just to say that they placed ballots in the US mail on or before election day, the point that was trying to be made was the secondary postmark causing the problem. I was not trying to say anything one way or another about the voters who are really close to the deadline. I was talking about the voters who have complied with the deadline, but the evidence in front of us might not automatically tell us that. That's what I was. I
Right.
was
Okay.
trying to address.
I understand. Okay.
So is the before I move on to others, is the consensus? I'm gonna, as it stands now, I'm changing voted timely ballots to place ballots in the U.S. mail, and then it'll just say on or before election day, which I think would cover what we're talking about. Daniel.
Yeah, well, let me address your question. I think also Alex, who raised the point, also made a good brought up a good caution, which is that there are some times when voters tend to drop it off in their mailboxes or the nearest post office box on the
Yep.
day of election. However,
Yep.
after the time, so I'm very weary about adding, um, on or before election day, because a voter may vote on
Oh,
election
oh,
day.
oh, oh, I see what you're saying. They could vote on election day and still not make the deadline because they don't get a postmark on election day.
That is correct.
Whereas the point I was trying to make was it's an otherwise valid ballot. That was the point that I was trying to make.
Well, if
You
that's the
know,
case, though, then paragraph, I believe it's, let me see, paragraphs 14, 15, and 16 kind of build the scenario you were talking about. And then paragraph 17 suggested a solution, which I would agree with, which is no voter will vote the day after election day. If we receive any ballot the day after election day, that ballot will fall in that category. That's either the voter.
I did not say that in this document.
Well, so paragraph 17, let me
No,
see.
paragraph 17, I suggested that the post office bolster its staffing so that postmarking happens more quickly around elections in order to minimize the impact of delayed postmarks.
If you do, so
I did not mean to use our communication with the Postal Service to talk about what decisions we make in Canvas.
oh, okay. Then I withdraw that statement. But then also, can you clarify in paragraph 16 when you, no, paragraph 17, when you said enhance, what do you mean by enhance?
I mean, adding, well, kind of like we add temporary employees around elections.
No, the reason I'm asking is because there are sometimes machines that are involved in, the like sorting of these mails and,
And the
bringing them
applying of the
through.
postmarks is done by machine as well.
Well,
That's what the rule says.
my understanding is that there are people who have to run machines, and maybe they need more machines. Maybe that's the case. Um,
Okay.
I'm more than happy to state it differently. I would love for people to propose language, but I think the goal is to say, let's find ways to speed things up when we're around, when we're right around elections. And if enhanced staffing is not the answer, if it can be done with enhanced automation, I'm fine with that too. We could say, we suggest that USPS consider enhancing USPS staffing and or automation across the country. Um,
Fine.
okay, you all like that? Okay,
Yep.
Yes.
all right. Then let me just add that before I forget it. Okay,
And Mr. President, I did have one other major comment before you move on,
okay.
if you don't
Um,
mind.
well, the question is whether Larry minds. He's next in line, but okay, let's go ahead.
Well, Larry and I will deal with that after the meeting. But uh,
Yeah, exactly.
I do have a problem with the language in 15 and 16 about this proposed rule asserting that it openly relieves the USPS from responsibility for the accuracy of postmarks. I think it does no such thing. It simply confirms what the Postal Service's existing practice has been for some time, and they are just making it clear to people who may not have known how the system works and how they interpret postmarks and when they apply them and what they mean. So I don't think I can support this if we are going to assert that it relieves the U.S. Postal Service from responsibility for delays in postmarks. The postmarks mean what they say they have meant, and the real question is, can I suppose it's a worthy objective to try to urge them as much as possible to apply the postmarks as evidence when they are first accepted, by the Postal Service. But I wouldn't agree with saying that it relieves them from responsibility, because I don't think it does that.
Well, let me explain what I was thinking, and then maybe we can see if there's something that we can agree on. Because um, if they've been doing something a certain way and they are issuing a rule to tell us that, there's a reason why they're issuing a rule to tell us that. Because they don't need the rule in order to do it a certain way if they are accurate in saying this is how we've always done it. Now, the idea of the special rules in 70% of post offices that suggest that they're no longer doing afternoon pickups kind of is contrary to the idea that it's the same as it's always been, because that took effect, as I understand it, earlier in 2025. So I would say, number one, that while this may support your point that this rule doesn't necessarily accomplish that, they may have accomplished it through something else that they don't even mention in this rule. But this rule is their way of saying, don't rely on us for this. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that anything that's going to make them less likely to try to make postmarks close to the time that something enters the mail stream is a problem for us. And I don't mean to cast aspersions on anybody's intentions. I don't accept the idea that this is simply a restatement of what's happening because, like I said, there's a reason why they're doing it. Um, and um, and I think the reason why they're doing it is to tell us, hey, don't rely on this. And I think that that's that's I think it's a problem in a number of areas, not just for elections, but I think it's a problem for us. Now, if the language of what I said about relieving the USPS from responsibility for the accuracy of postmarks as indicators of when I can phrase it more gently. Um,
I mean, the problem is they were never accurate evidence necessarily of when a piece first entered the mail stream. I think what you're saying, David, is that
I want it
we
to be
we may
closer.
have more of a quarrel with the RTO initiative, but that's a sort of a different issue than
I think it's a similar issue because the RTO initiative is delaying the postmark, and they're basically saying don't rely on us for timely postmarks. This is really an outgrowth, if you ask me, of the RTO initiative. This is basically saying, we're slowing down the mail, and we're telling you we're slowing down the postmarks. But I will say that, like I said, I'm not trying to. Um, I'm not trying to use incendiary language. I am trying to basically say the closer you are to when the mail entered the postal system, the easier it is for us. So, um, if I were to say,
well, maybe
um,
could I
it,
suggest this, that it would
yeah,
be sort of federal policy that would make it more as opposed to less likely that a postmark would reflect the date when the piece was first accepted, has the potential to unfairly, you know,
okay,
or
um, um,
we don't get
um,
into this thing about accusing them of trying to dodge responsibility. It's the
right, right,
policy, the
right, right,
RTO,
right.
whatever.
Hang on a second. I have an idea here based on what you just said. Um, okay. Here's what I would just want to throw out here for consideration for paragraph 15. We believe the proposed rule has a significant potential to exacerbate these problems by making it less likely that postmarks indicate when mailings enter into the postal system.
Well, for first enter into the postal system, perhaps. Yeah.
I think that's redundant,
Okay.
but
All right.
I'm willing to say first enter if that's important to you. But I think that enter means that.
All right. I can agree with that.
Okay. Um, does that addresses your concern, Alex, about 15?
Right. And I mean, similar change for 16, as long as we're not saying that
Let me see what um,
PS from responsibility. I don't know if other board members have a problem with that, but I do. So,
well, let me ask the question. Well, first, I'm trying to decide whether to address this first or whether to go to Larry and Ami. Larry and Ami, do you have something on this subject or on other subjects?
Well, it's basically on this subject, but Larry was first. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Stay on
So,
topic.
I
Let's not.
mean, my point is that the assertion, well, it isn't an assertion, the assumption that a postmark is meaningful in terms of the time applies to lots of things other than mail-in ballots. And I go
Correct.
back to the earlier comment you made, David, about tax returns, property tax payments, legal documents. And I think that in fact, the post office is doing a cover your ass statement here. And I would personally want to call them on it and say, if that's the way you want to be, then recognize it for this and for other legal actions where postmarks are significant. And
Okay.
I would make that implication in our statement. But, I'm
So does that mean that you disagree with the change that I just suggested, or that
no,
you?
I'd live with it if it gets the general point made. But I think that the fact that if Alex is right and this is simply saying this is what we've always done, guys,
I don't
then
think
I'm
it's accurate to
quite
say that.
sure why they're bothering to post the rule.
I do think that Alex is right that they're claiming that.
Well, it's because
Yeah.
people have been confused, I suppose. I just, if we
But the
want
legal
their
system is then confused.
well, it may be, Ami, but if we want their cooperation, why are we bashing them over the head saying you're dodging responsibility and we're calling you out on it? It's unnecessary to do that.
I think it is necessary to do it. Otherwise, we allow them to continue to ignore the relevance.
I don't think
Well,
anything we say is going to change that. They're going to do what they're going to do. I
well,
just
I'm somewhere in the middle as far as a strategic matter. Believe me, I'd be more than happy to bash them over the head because I think that what they're doing is, you know, very problematic. But I'm not sure that it's a good strategy to call them out as. I mean, I don't disagree with anything that Ami said. I think it's exactly what they're doing. But I want to consider the strategy of two things. One is how strongly do we say that you all are taking something that you used to take pride in, which is that you move the mail quickly, and you're basically saying, not us. And then the second question is, how much are we going to focus on other users of the postal system? Because our expertise is what I was trying to focus on, which is ballots. I mean, I know about tax returns because I file tax returns, but I don't pretend to be the, you know, the expert on how either the federal government or the state handles postmarks relating to, you know, relating to tax returns, and whether if it's postmarked a day late, do they, you know, do they take action? I don't know what they do. I know that they can. Let me hear from other board members, you know, about this. And I don't know whether the best way to figure this out is going to be right here and now. But if it needs to be, I'll have to think about how to, you know, if there's a way to weave between here. I'd like them to feel responsible for what they're doing. I wouldn't like them to feel like we are bashing them for, you know, unnecessarily, I guess is the way I would.
they're saying is, I think the way I interpret it is that they're not interpreting what postmarks mean any differently than they did before the RTO initiative.
Well, but that's, I mean, let's face it, Alex, at the same time, they are changing their practice to make the postmarks happen less often. And you know, so by not picking up mail in the afternoon at 70% of post offices, yeah, they're saying we're not changing the meaning of the postmark, we're just changing how quickly you can get it.
Well, there's broader policy implications and cost reasons for all of that, which sort of go beyond what we're talking about. But yeah, I
Well,
guess that's
well,
right. No.
all right, but I mean, they have their cost reasons and we have ours. I mean, and our reason is that, you know, they're going to cause us, you know, our canvas will be longer. You know, if we're going to get more, if we get more ballots that are postmarked in a similar fashion to what we've gotten, you know, the day after election day, you know, we're gonna have an issue on our hands. We already have 600 untimely ballots, and I don't remember how many of those were, you know, right after election day. A lot of them were. My very poor memory is suggesting that it might have been like 200 of them. But you know, that's a lot of ballots in a county that has had elections decided by less than 100 votes, you know, twice in the last 8 years.
It is, but I guess
Yeah.
what that would mean is our real quarrel is not with what they're saying postmarks mean. It's just we want to say we don't like the RTO initiative. Scrap it because it's going to it's going to hurt voters.
No,
Isn't
we're
that
not.
what we're really saying?
No, we're not saying scrap it. I'm not telling them how to run their mail system, you know, 365 days a year. I'm telling them that they're affecting elections and that they could, with a reasonable amount of effort around elections, with temporary resources, they could fix this problem if they wanted to, if they paid attention to it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that they're causing a problem. They're making a problem that we already have worse. They are basically saying this is the way it is. We are telling the world this is the way it is. They didn't see, to my knowledge, seek, maybe they did seek public comment on the RTO initiative, but I certainly wasn't aware of that. This is our chance to tell them that, if you make it so that the routine is that postmarks are going to be, happen further in time from when you place something in a mailbox, which is, I think, what they're saying, then I mean that has a real impact on us and on other states that rely on postmarks for timeliness. Larry.
Yeah, thank you. Where to start? Well, first of all, the RTO was introduced and proposed on October 4th, 2024, and the Postal Rate Commission, as was required, had to issue an advisory opinion about it, which is available, and they hated it. They thought it was ill-founded. They thought the cost savings projected weren't going to happen. So that's what they said. But back to the point, I mean, I think I agree with Alex that the implication of what we're saying here, I have a couple of implications which concern me. The first is that your additional staff, in effect, repeal RTO for election mail. But if I put my ballot in a blue mailbox in Iowa at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and it's an RTO mailbox, Post Service is not going to know to send an extra truck driver there. They're not going to know there's a piece of election mail in that box. It doesn't get picked up till the next day. That's just what it is. That's the fact of life here.
Yeah, but no. But the post office in Iowa, first of all, I realize that there's primary elections and general elections, but the post office in Iowa will know that in the last week of October, a lot of ballots are going to be moving all over the country. So the post office in Iowa and across the country could know that they need extra resources at that particular moment in time, from October the 25th until Election Day. And that doesn't take, an advanced degree to know. That's pretty basic. Now, admittedly, the post office in Iowa may not know that our primary is on June 23rd. Okay, I get that. But I think all that I'm proposing for us to say is think about increasing your resources around elections, and for a week. I'm not saying, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I were on the Postal Rate Commission, I might have a different view, but a broader view. But from my perspective here, it's, and again, I'm not trying to be the Postmaster General, but I am trying to defend the interests of our voters, and I just feel like they're asking us for. Not just us, they're asking the world for our opinions about this. And anything that makes it harder to prove that you mailed on time when you do mail on time. And yes, it's true. If you mail at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, you may have an expectation that is unrealistic because, well, let me just say, the vast majority of the world probably has not heard about the RTO initiative. And they may expect that if they mail before 5 o'clock on a weekday, that their mail is going to get picked up. Because that's the way it's been as long as I can remember. But even
in that scenario, does it mean the postmark would have been applied the same day it was picked up?
Not necessarily. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Right.
And
the little label on the blue box, the collection box, gives you the collection times. And I presume that my mailbox in Iowa doesn't have that 4 o'clock pickup time on it anymore.
That's quite an assumption, Larry. That is quite an assumption. You are assuming that they've changed the delivery times and changed what's on the box efficiently. Why do you think that the Postal Service is that efficient?
I'm hoping they are. Which leads me to my next point, though, which is that I think, as you and I have discussed, in whole, this concept document, despite the thank you at the beginning for local stuff, doesn't paint a very good picture of the Postal Service. And it portrays them as a less reliable partner in election mail, which you say they are. But I'm not convinced this response to this rulemaking is the place to make those arguments. but I think that they will be used as to say we are undermining the concept of mail for mail ballots. The broader conversation you didn't want to have. That's just my comment. One final thing. Number 21, I don't understand. I don't know what it means.
There are different places in the request for comments where they talk about um, technologies that can be used to trace mail. And I don't particularly understand them. The original draft that I submitted attempted to name them, but I honestly, it struck me that to name them made no sense because I couldn't explain them. But there are various references in the request for comments to different indicators of that commercial mailers can use, that others can use essentially to keep track of their mail. And what I'm attempting to say in paragraph 21 is that if there are other ways for us meaning election officials, to be able um, to get any additional information about the mail other than the postmark, then one option would be for us to do that. And there would be a cost attached to it. I don't know what it would be, but the idea would be that we're not automatically saying that we want them to do more and that we're not willing to do more. We're saying we want to have a system under which we can determine when people mailed their ballots and come as close to that as we can. And that's really what number 21 is attempting to say.
David,
If there is, I'll come to you in just a second, Ami. If there is a way for us to figure that out, if additional equipment or training would accomplish that, that was the goal of number 21. Ami.
I think we need to generalize that paragraph some and simply refer to, technology is always evolving. And as technology evolves, there may be better ways that both the post office and we can operate to ensure integrity in the election process here.
I
And
don't
simply be more general.
I don't want to acknowledge that what I was trying to deal with here is not about technology that doesn't exist yet. They refer to a variety of technologies in their document.
Such as a certificate of mailing.
No,
Okay.
no. Certificate of mailing is old technology. And for that matter,
There's a barcode thing.
right. That's what I'm talking.
And
Right. There's a barcode thing, and at one point, I think there was like I don't remember if it was an ultraviolet light, but there was some other kind of thing that they were talking about in terms of using special equipment in order to figure out in order to track mail.
okay,
And,
well then
and
I think we need to reword that paragraph some then that maybe refers back to the things that they talk about.
well, that's what I did originally, and the concern was that we couldn't explain what they do, and I can't. I freely admit that I can't. Now, if we were to come up with a more general discussion about technologies that already exist or that come into existence in the future, I can live with that because I just don't I don't want to automatically assume that the current technology doesn't work for us because I suspect that if I were a commercial mailer, I would have all kinds of tools at my disposal that would potentially be usable by election officials if election officials had the resources of commercial mailers.
Okay, good point.
Happy to I don't think I could word it as we sit here, but I would be happy to work with whoever wants to. I suspect that Kevin would tell us that it has to be one at a time to try to word that that paragraph to cover both currently existing technologies and any that could get developed in the future. I see that Kevin has turned his camera on. Was I correct in my guess as
You
to what
were
you were going to
correct.
say?
Yes, you were correct.
You see, Kevin, all these years of listening to you, I actually heard what you said. Anyway, okay. So I'll be happy to work with folks on that. So if I understand correctly, that is for paragraph 21, and the idea there is to make it more general about I'll just say training in existing or future technology.
David, I will send you and Ami separately the some language I got from that friend of mine in the post service who I talked to about this, who said that the issue is they're third party cancellations. They're called, kiosks, meter strips. They're called postage meters that could be slightly modified to indicate the place and time of affixation that's not there now. And so I'll send you the language. It's the existing third party cancellation technologies could be improved to make it more.
So how would that work for us? Third party cancellation. I mean, is that
Well, if I take my valve to the office and stick it, or I take it to a mail kiosk and affix postage there, or of course, you would need postage,
right? But the old fashioned postage meter, at least, it used to be possible, for people to backdate the postage meter, and so as a result, we didn't want to rely on postage meters.
Okay. Well, then again, between I didn't know what technology you were talking about.
Okay. Well, please do send what you're referring to. Are there other comments, or I know that we still have to go back to number 15 and 16 about relieving them of the responsibility, or I guess my question is, do board members feel comfortable in delegating the responsibility for how we say that, or is that the difference between you're supporting and not supporting this document? Because I think I understand the goal here is to basically say the post office is taking actions that are going to make it so that some postmarks are going to be further in time from when the ballots enter the mail stream, and that is a bad thing as far as we're concerned. And I gather that Alex, your concern is with the phrase about relieving them from responsibility. Is that
Correct. Right. I mean, we may view it that way. Apparently, some board members feel that way, but rather than second guessing and suspecting their motives, let's talk about the effects of it.
So if we were to talk about the effects, which is that what they're doing will cause delays, as opposed to relieving them, and I'm not talking about the combination of everything is what's causing delays. Because I understand what you're saying. They're going to argue that this notice does not cause delays. This notice
RTO initiative, if anything, which I guess if we want to criticize that here, I suppose we could, but maybe that ship has sailed, right? I guess is what Larry is saying. But it's really the RTO initiative that is going to have these effects, rather than them just telling us.
Well, I personally don't have a problem with criticizing previous decisions that we did not have an opportunity to comment on at the time that are going to affect voting, especially in the context of what they're doing with postmarks. That's going to make it even harder, because they are making our job harder. I don't believe it's necessarily their motivation to make our job harder. But they are making our job harder. And And they're making it harder for our voters. Because there's already a lot of confusion. I know very smart, educated people who did not understand that when you hand your envelope to your postal carrier at your house on election day, that does not result in a postmark on election day. And this is going a step further. This is saying you go to the post office and you put it in the mailbox at 4 o'clock, that also may not result in a postmark on an election day where it used to. And I don't have a problem with saying that's for us and for our voters, that's a problem. But I don't know that we have to say you're doing this just to relieve yourself of responsibility. Although I do think that in part, I'm trying to understand why they post a public notice of something if they say it doesn't change anything. Because in my experience, the federal government doesn't do that very often.
Well, it may be because the RTO initiative is going to make these disparities, larger. So they want to make sure that people understand. I don't know.
Except that they didn't mention that initiative in this document.
Sure they did. Yeah,
they
mentioned
did?
Multiple times. In fact, there's a discussion on page whatever about actually the effect that this will have.
All right. Well, I guess I have to reread it. It's been a bit. All right. My apologies to the Postal Service.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me get a sense from board members how you feel on the question of how to phrase. And I don't necessarily need language. I just want to get a general sense at the moment on how to phrase the language in paragraphs 15 and 16 about relieving the Postal Service from responsibility versus saying that it makes it less likely that the postmarks will be or delays the postmarks, or words to that effect. Don't all jump at once.
You already know how I feel about it, Mr. President.
Yes, Alex.
I imagine you were not soliciting an answer from me on that.
I know where you're coming from. I heard where Ami was coming from. I want to hear where others are coming from if they have an opinion. Daniel.
Yeah, Mr. President, I believe that. So my thinking is we should not be adversarial in this conversation because we want to make sure. I think you and Ami met with the Postmaster General, or is it
no? We met with the local postmasters. We met.
Okay.
We met with the postmaster in Gaithersburg.
I think that's more.
But we did it. But we did have a good meeting, and we don't. Yeah.
I think to me that's a good approach because most of the impact is felt locally and so any in terms of channel that gets closer to the Gaithersburg office that can resolve the whole postmark issue. Now to be realistic, it's not going to eliminate it, right? Because some of the RTOs.
Because we have voters who vote in other places.
That's correct. But especially the ones within Montgomery County, right? Which I think that's the bulk that we received the day after election and the second day after elections. Again, this is just an assumption. I don't want to, I don't want to make a statement of fact when I don't have data. My hypothesis is that the mails we get in the day after election or the week after election, a bulk of it is coming from Montgomery County voters. When I say Montgomery County, who basically are going into the post office or they're just dropping in their mailboxes and it gets to us a day or two. A day we've made that to say, okay, we'll count it. But the second day, we're not counting them as valid votes, which I think pains all of us because those are votes that should be counted if some corrections are.
Yeah, we don't know if they're valid is the problem.
That is correct. And so my approach is like what you and Ami has done on behalf of the board to me is notable, but also I believe is the right direction. So any statement coming from the board now that is being overly critical, we're not saying let's hide the problem. In fact, our response should be to let them know what the problem is so that we can all come to a solution And the solution should be how do we reduce, not necessarily eliminate, in terms of the problem we're having right now, which is with postmarks. So that would be my approach in every one of the paragraphs that we write to state the problem, but then also,
Okay.
you know,
Do you have other suggestions about other parts of this document, or you're just saying that that's your overall approach?
that's my overall approach because I
Okay.
agree with majority of the document because it's really stating the facts. Like we have a problem. Like we should not be we shouldn't be we should be counting many of these votes, in my opinion, in my estimates, if we're not having postmark issues. Because many of these votes, many of these ballots we receive in a day or two after elections, or even a week after elections. So the question is that the universe of the problem is huge. I mean, we're talking about, as you say, elections are being decided by less than 100 votes. And now here it is, we're dealing with 500, 600. So we want to make sure at least we minimize the problem if we're not able to eliminate it.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Larry.
Yeah. So here's the question. So if I recall correctly, we've repaired paragraph 15, so it doesn't lay blame anymore. Is that right?
Well, I don't think we've made a decision on that.
I wrote the language. I can show you all what I've written, but that was before I heard Ami suggest that she wants to be a little stronger, and that's why I am asking. And we don't have to do the same thing in 15 and 16. We can do things, we can do whatever it is we think is appropriate.
Well,
But
that was just my
but
question. That if 15 had been rewritten to avoid blaming, simply say you're creating a problem that we have to, we're stuck with, work with, then I think maybe we don't even need 16 anymore. But that's just a suggestion.
David, what you could say is you could quote directly from their document, and here it's a short sentence. It says the RTO initiative will make the scenario where a postmark date does not align with the date the Postal Service first accepted possession of a mail piece more common. End quote. If so, that initiative is going to harm our voters. Could say it like that.
I like that. Ami,
Yeah.
and then Kina.
I have no problem with that. I think that's a good thing to say, Alex. My concern, though, is that Daniel, I think you went too far. I think we need to say, I mean, I don't see a solution to the problem. The post office is going to say, this is what we're doing. That's the way it is. And there is no solution to that problem. And so I think telling them that they are creating an additional problem for us for which they have not even thought about a solution is bad on them.
Okay, but let me ask a question because Alex's proposed language, which I hope he remembers and sends to me.
I like it.
But Alex's proposed language was to basically say, this is the effect and this is the problem you're creating for us, without saying, and you're only doing this notice to cover your what. And I guess my question is, if we have the first part and the second part, this is the effect and this is the problem it's creating for us, do we need the third part that says, and you're only doing this, you're doing this to cover yourself, even though as a retired career federal employee, I certainly know the behavior when I see it. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't know whether we need to call them out on exactly that if we're going to say you're causing this problem for us.
Well, then I would say without offering a potential solution. I
Okay.
think it's up to them to create a solution for a problem they are creating.
Okay. Before I go to Kina, How do people feel about saying, adding to Alex's, here's what you're doing, um, here's the problem, and you're not and you're not offering a solution. I mean, and let me add to that that of course we'd be happy to work with the Postal Service on a solution
Sure,
if they wanted to.
sure.
Um,
I prefer
And I
that.
think, and we did recommend a solution is add some additional staffing for a week.
right. Well, maybe I can add something that says we would be happy to work with you on alternative solutions.
Fine. I'd be delighted at that.
There you go. I mean, I agree on something.
I think we often agree, Daniel.
I agree.
I think all seven of us often agree. It's just that we get to different, from different places, and that's that, of course, I shouldn't have said that right before calling on Kino, because for all we know, Kino feels totally differently than everybody else. But Kino, go ahead.
Do not worry, Mr. President. I'm not looking to be the antagonist of today. Actually, Alex, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think we should be letting them know that this is the problem and this is the cause. At the end of the day, that's what anyone essentially would be looking for in this letter. And to Ami's point, they should be the ones to propose a solution. And David, per the procedure that we have had as a board, we've always been open to advise or to shed light on the concerns that we are bringing to their attention. So really, it's not a strategy that's completely different than what we've had in the past. We're really just underscoring
Oh
the
no,
effect it has on the community.
we're happy to work with them.
Exactly.
We work with everybody.
Right.
But the chances that the United States Postal Service wants to work with the Montgomery County, Maryland Board of Elections is pretty small, because they're going to get comments from all over the place,
Of
from
course.
all different industries and all. They're going to, I don't know how many comments they're going to get. Um, I worked in a department that used to get, tens of thousands of comments on its rules. So
Mhm.
I don't know whether the Postal Service is in that category or not. Um, uh,
Well, to that point, I've shared my comments regarding Alex's suggestion and Ami and Vice President Karoma's suggestion as well. What I also wanted to just continue to give my support of is to underscore the point about business reply envelopes. It doesn't, that's a space where it does not help us how the policy currently exists. And definitively needs to be clearer or needs to be changed.
well, or both.
Or
So,
or both. Thank
um,
you, Mr. President, or both. I prefer it to be changed. However, understanding that when it comes to federal workers or people working in the federal space, they are bombarded by many requests. And so I would opt for one that might be simpler, but effectively still supports the voters and doesn't disenfranchise anyone.
okay,
And I yield my
thank
time
you.
back to this group.
Okay, thank you, Kina. Margie.
So not to throw a wrench in this, but I do, and maybe this is my personal preference, I always do like giving some sort of suggestion in terms of like recommended steps forward. Not that the idea is that you must do this, you should do this, this is the best practice, but here are some suggestions. Therefore, if they get a lot of recommendations of that specific suggestion, it's something that stands out to them. And if we're not if the likelihood of them reaching out to us is very low, it's helpful for us to have at least some sort of say on like what we would consider best practices. So it's
The way I interpreted what this group was saying was not, at least the majority of this group, was not that we take out the suggestions that are in the document now. It was that we also indicate a willingness to work with them about other possible ways to address this. We as non-experts on the Postal Service, we're experts on elections. We're, just, or at least to the extent that we, compared to the average person. Um, but we're not experts on the Postal Service. We're making suggestions. I did not interpret what everyone was saying as to say, take out the suggestions. I was interpreting that to say, these are just some ideas. Happy to have you come up with suggestions. They probably are in a better position to figure it out than we are. Now, folks, if I'm wrong about how I'm interpreting what you all have been saying, let me know. But I mean, because I agree with you, Margie, that if all we do is complain, and we don't have any possible solutions, I think it's even less likely to get any kind of positive reaction than if we offer whatever suggestions we can think of.
Agree.
Okay. Are there other comments? Because here's the consensus that I think I hear. I think what I'm hearing is, first of all, the document is not ready to be voted on as a document today, but the comments are due this week. So I'm probably going to ask the board to vote on the concepts, and work with different ones of you on different parts of this in order to get it completed in the form that I think we'll all be comfortable with. Kina had suggested that we add a little bit more on the question of the business reply envelopes, which I think is just a sentence or two somewhere. I haven't. I'll have to look back and see.
Paragraph 20.
Paragraph 20, is that what?
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
President.
Yes. So, okay. Alex, I'm going to ask you to take the framework that you suggested and send me something that, and if you, I don't know whether your suggestion is specifically for paragraphs 15 and 16, or if it's somewhere else, but just send me your suggestion for that. I think what I'm hearing from people is that we want to pretty strongly tell them that they're causing issues for us and our voters, but to not attempt to to not attempt to deal with their motivations for issuing their rule, which I'm fine with. I think the most important thing is to let them know what the problem is, to tell them, and I think that there is a consensus. Maybe like I said, I'm not sure if it's a consensus. There's a majority, I think, that would agree with the idea that we are going to propose whatever solutions we can. For example, on business reply envelopes, the solution is if it's marked as election mail, we want a postmark. And the Postal Service, when I say it's marked as election mail, that is my understanding is, and maybe there are others on this, either Boris or Kevin or someone else who can clarify this. The marking of election mail is something that was worked out between, election officials and the Postal Service nationally. That is not unique to us. There's things that are marked as election mail, including our return ballots. And tell me if that's accurate. But if it is, then suggesting different treatment for something marked as election mail is not out of the question.
David, I believe that is accurate. I mean, a lot of states are relying upon postmarks.
Right. Okay.
You would remember, David, that the official election mail has a mail logo on the envelope.
Yes. And does that logo come from the Postal Service?
I think that we insert that logo. My understanding is that state's vendor inserts the logo as per, I believe, USPS either requirement or agreement. I'm not necessarily the right person to answer that question. State is more.
Okay, but the idea is that it's, because I've seen election mail from other jurisdictions that use a similar logo. any event. So if I were to summarize what I'm talking about, it would be, I'd like the board's approval to for us to send comments. It will be consistent with this discussion, including Alex's framework for describing what they're doing, how it's causing problems for us. It would then also include what, the potential solutions that we've already discussed, plus an offer to work with them on other solutions if they would like. And I would also add some more discussion about the business reply envelopes because, as Keena correctly pointed out, that is the good news for us is that there's a lot of times that they do postmark those envelopes. But the bad news is if they're not supposed to. I mean, I think we want them to. We want the postmarks at the, again, at the point of origin.
Exactly.
And Keena, if you have specific language, please send it to me as well. And when I'm asking people to send me things, I'm asking you to send it within 24 hours so that we have time to refine it and get it ready. Kevin, if I wanted to give people an opportunity to review the document before it's sent, is that possible or is that not possible?
It's possible if there's a very tight deadline and window for anyone to provide any comment, but my suggestion would be that you take the comments that you've gotten from the board members, which you have, I think, accurately just summarized, and have maybe perhaps run it by Ami, and get it filed because we don't have much time.
Yeah, we don't. We have essentially 2 days, 3 including the day it has to be sent. It would be ironic if we were to miss the deadline for this because we mailed it too late. So we're not going to do that. Anyway, okay. But let me put it to all of you this way. What I'd like is a vote of support for this approach. I'm asking each of you in different ways to help contribute to this. I also am more than willing, for example, Alex, if you want to see the final wording of whatever it is you give me and what I do with it, it's not my proposal that you're going to send it to me and it goes into a black box. If you're available to talk to, I'm more than happy to tell you what I do with it and get your comments on that. That would be an individual conversation. Same for any of you, right? I mean, as I think you all know, I am more than happy to have those conversations. It's just that there's 2 limiting factors. One is the open meetings law, and the other is the time, and the difficulties of editing a document with 7 people. 8 when you include Kevin, although he's more like the referee here. So anyway, are people comfortable with that? Because I think we've made I think we've had a good conversation. I think we've made a lot of progress. I like where we're going with this. I like the idea that we're going to communicate our issues and we're going to attempt to do it in a way that gets listened to. So I think that's a good result.
Do we need a motion, Mr. President?
I believe I made a motion and you seconded it, but I guess my motion was to approve the paper. So I guess I should
amend your motion.
Yeah, or look, I'll ask unanimous consent to amend the motion to be a support of the concepts in the paper as revised in the manner that we discussed in this meeting, with the process that we discussed in this meeting.
Okay, and as the seconder, I will agree to that.
Technically, that's not how it works, but thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it is unanimous of the voting members. Thank you. I would appreciate hearing from everybody with your pieces. I'm also going to look back at this and see what I can do with it as well. And Kevin, I appreciate your being kind of on standby. You and I can work out how we'll get it completed. But hopefully we'll have a draft of something pretty close by the end of tomorrow. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And thank you all for a good conversation. The next thing on our agenda, well, is there any other new business? Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the list of future action items from today's meeting. Aside from the future action items that we just gave ourselves on this subject, do we have any others? Alex.
Not trying to make any extra work for him, but I was thinking in maybe in future for the outreach updates from Dr. Z, it might be helpful if there was like some indicator of which events are open to the public and which are not. I don't know, but maybe if it's just the public school ones, and then we already know that, then it's not necessary.
I think at the moment he's given us two different documents. Is that right, Boris?
So there are two documents. One is, as Gilberto said, one is for the board that gets the overall picture of every activity that's open or not for the public. And on our website, we have events that are open for the public in the same manner. So we do publish.
All right, but let me ask a question about that because and Dr. Z, thank you for rejoining us here.
Yeah.
I may have been the confused one, but I wasn't aware that there's two different documents. And I guess part of what I want to understand is the document that we post for our board meetings. That is a document that does not include the non-public events. Is that correct?
No. So the document I provide to the board includes everything that's confirmed for those 2 months. What is posted on our website under outreach, those are the open to the public events. So subtracting the high schools, the closed events, like say at Leisure World or a nonprofit an organization, those will not appear on our webpage. So if you go to
So where is it on the website?
okay, so go to 777 vote.
Right, I'm there.
Okay, and then scroll down and click upcoming events. On the left side, scroll down
Okay,
halfway.
I see upcoming
Click
events.
more Board of Election events.
And then I go to the Board of Elections calendar.
Yes, and then on the right-hand side, underneath the State Board of Elections, which is on the right side.
It says community engagement and outreach events.
Yes. So those are the ones that are open to the public. So you will see National Night Out, National Voter Registration Day, Burtonsville Day, etc. What the board has provided is everything.
Okay, but what we're provided is put on our website, not where your calendar is, but where the board meeting materials are.
Correct.
So we are telling the public where we're going for events that are not open to the public. We're just not doing it on your page, we're doing it on ours.
Correct.
Has it ever caused a problem?
No.
Or better yet, we can just copy that link and share it because that's what I've been doing.
Well,
but they're two different lists.
The link for the public is what we can
For the
share.
public, that's what I'm talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But okay, so for the board list, for example, so for next month's board list, I gather that the first month of school is not the best time for us to go into schools. So I'm guessing that next month you're going to have more schools on your list than you do.
Most definitely, correct.
Than you do for this month.
Yes, we allow them at least the first 3 weeks.
Right.
Until the dust settles.
And thank you for that, because I think that's a very smart thing for them and for us. So for next month, your calendar for us goes on the board page because everything for the board meeting goes on the board page, which is now a matter of state law, right? I mean, it used to be that it was our policy, but I mean, and we're not, if someone were to contact you and say, I want to be there, you would probably either say it's not a public event or you'd refer them to the school, depending on what the event is, I guess.
Correct. I humbly decline and like the
Yeah,
rationale
yeah,
why, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
direct them
Okay,
to the school.
okay. So, so Alex, was your concern that you wanted the list that we get to make that distinction?
Well,
Um,
I was thinking about that, but I guess if there's a second list that you can check for that purpose, then maybe it's not necessary. So,
well, I guess I'll just ask Boris and Gilberto to talk to each other and think about whether that's going to be easy or hard. And if it's hard, then we can use the other link. If it's easy to put a star or a something, um, that will be one extra reminder for us, not to share, the things that we're not supposed to, that list with I mean, obviously it's available to the public, so it's not like people are going to find it whether we share it or not. But I know that we don't want to be the ones who invite people to things we shouldn't invite them to.
What I could do is on the list that I provide to the board prior to the session, I could put an asterisk underneath the title where it says Montgomery County Board of Elections Division of Community Outreach and Engagement with the corresponding months underneath it. Put uh, both private and public events listed. For a listing of public events, visit our home, like our page.
I like that. Does that work for you, Alex?
yep.
And with a link to that page.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, that
Boris,
works.
does that work for you?
It works. I was on the same wavelength here with Gilberto. We are not hiding events. We are just
No.
trying to show to the board the volume that we are doing, but at the
Right.
same time opening to the public everything that's open for the public. So
And let me say that both of those things are important because there are people in the community who don't necessarily want to come to our events, but are happy that we're having them.
fair enough.
And there's also people in our community who are happy to see that that not every event is in Silver Spring. That we're in different parts of the county. We're in we're different age groups. We're our outreach, the full extent of our outreach, is something that I think people are happy about. And not that we should only give happy news, but I'm just saying that I think people care about that. So I think both are good. I think it's good to be able to tell people where they can actually go if they want to interact with us, but I think it's also good for them to know that we are doing other things in addition. And I would add, just to make very clear for anyone who listens, you know, you go to Democratic events, you go to Republican events, you go to nonpartisan events. Political affiliation is, if they see on the list that you've gone to a particular party affiliation, that just means that that was that one particular event, and the next event could be something totally different.
Correct.
Hey, David,
Yes, Kevin.
I unfortunately need to log off. I was supposed to meet clients at 6 o'clock.
Oh my, so you should go. I think we
Okay.
are almost
Everyone
done.
have a nice evening. Take care.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
And I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna log off also because I got to run up to
Okay.
Bethesda to the community conversations.
Okay, I think we've answered that question. Was there anything else? Thank you, Dr. Z.
My pleasure.
Anything else for future actions? Okay. Oh man, approval of the minutes. I don't think I even looked at the minutes this month. God help me. Has anybody else reviewed the minutes other than I?
No, I didn't have time to do that either, David.
Can we put off the approval of the minutes until our next meeting?
Sure.
I think we have to, because if we were to approve them without reading them, I think that would be irresponsible. So, okay, we will, so next month we will be better. That is on us. I want the record to be clear. The staff sent them to us in a timely manner. This is completely on board members. So, and thank you to Lisa for her work on that, and whoever else was involved. So we'll approve 2 sets of minutes at our October meeting. Our October meeting is scheduled for 3 o'clock on Monday, October 20th. Usually at this time, I don't know if there's a reason for us to meet in person on October 20th. I do know that we have to meet in person on November 17th. So why don't we assume, unless Boris, is there a reason for us to meet in person on October 20th?
Not to my knowledge, and this date, no.
Okay, so unless there's a change, let's assume that the October 20th meeting will be a virtual meeting. The November 17th meeting will be an in-person meeting, and we'll cross the bridge on the December 15th meeting when we get closer to December. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.